I'll be honest, because I knew a little bit of the history. On October the 8th, I said this is a genocide. This is not hostage rescue. They want to just kill them all. You're going to carpet bomb the whole of Gaza. We're going to, and now, we got 10 months of it now, and probably 10% of the population gone. So if you have a shred of humanity, you have to say this is off the charts as far as evil is concerned. So yeah, that's.
So when it comes to like politics, a lot, especially in America, you got the Republicans. I think they call Donald Trump's party. They kind of seem to ally with Israel no matter what. No matter what happens, even over here in the political parties, you've got the Labour Friends of Israel, Labour Friends of Conservatives, etc.
You're right.
So, what is the sentiment amongst the Christians, and where's the difference? Like, tell us a bit more about that.
I'm so happy you asked about that. I think first of all, the church was split at the time of Martin Luther. It was a Catholic church from the beginning with Jesus Christ.
This is a different Martin Luther to Martin Luther King.
Correct.
Just for the viewers, yeah.
He was a German monk who could no longer tolerate the ascetic life of the monks. He could never control his passions, and he basically said, I don't have a human will, and he kind of blamed God for his sins. And the church split. But in England, that happened then with Henry VIII. He stole the land of the church, and you had Protestantism essentially, which was really, he gave all the land of the church to the aristocracy, which was, they had a lot of land, they started borrowing money, you got the Jews involved, you get capitalism, and then you have the state we're in today. But the big problem is a heresy called Christian Zionism. Christian Zionism. I know as a Catholic that is a heresy, there's no truth. Now Protestants tend to do this, they will take one line from the Bible and they will construct a whole narrative about whatever the issue is. What they've done there is they take a line from Genesis which says, God will bless you and those who bless you, and God will curse those who curse you. And they say, that means the state of Israel today. That's complete nonsense. The state of Israel...
What's the connection between the two? How did they reach that conclusion from
that?
Well,
it's called the Schofield Bible. And I think there was a Jewish influence there, and it basically said, in order for us to make Zionism work, we're going to need to get the Christians on board, because there aren't many, and it really stuck. I think it was the beginning of the 20th century, just after Zionism had really taken off as an ideology, and it is so destructive. We can see the English have it. I'll be honest, there are even some Catholics who are effectively Christian Zionists. They're saying, it's really that Israel belongs to the Jews of today. Nonsense.
Bro, let's move out the sun.
Yeah.
Should we move out the sun?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, let's go down there.
But so the Catholic position is Jesus came into the world. The Jews were divided at the time, which, by the way, this means it's not about race or DNA. The Jewish people had a choice. Are you going to accept the Messiah or are you going to reject him? The ones that accepted him, his mother, the disciples, and all the other early Christians, they're called Christians. The Jews who rejected him are called the Jews. This is how St. John describes them, identifies them in the Gospel. And we're saying the Romans then destroyed the temple, and in 130 AD, I believe, maybe the dates are a bit wrong, Judaism as we know it today was established, basically to give a religious identity to the rejectors of Christ. But the true followers of Christ, the Christians, known as the New Israel, they could never legitimize those people going back 2,000 years later and saying, this is our land. So that's our position. I hope that's helpful.
So you're saying you were born in Ireland and you've been staying here in England, right?
Correct. I've been here for 37 years.
Because I was looking at the history of Ireland as well, and the concept of Northern Ireland, where England planted some Protestants there,
right,
just so they can have a foothold and some influence over Ireland. And do you hope that one day, or are you optimistic that one day Ireland will all be one unity, or do you think, or are you kind of
I mean, that's a very good
pessimistic?
question. I just to kind of put a bit of historical context on this, Oliver Cromwell who was, in a sense, he was the man who brought genocide to Ireland, we would say.
Oh, really?
When the Puritans took over in England, he would call himself a Christian, but we would describe him as a Judaizing Christian, which is essentially a Christian who no longer looks to the church established by Christ, the Catholic Church. Now, when you break away from the Catholic Church as a Christian, you will tend to look to the Jews for a deeper identity, and you look to the Old Testament morality, and that's what he brought to Ireland. So when we sympathise with the Palestinians, it's mainly because of our Catholic faith, but also because we know what occupation is like.
There you go.
We know what genocide is like. We know we suffered a famine.
Yes.
There was loads of food in Ireland, but the Protestants, because of their addiction to free trade, they thought, well, this is just the invisible hand of free trade working, and kind of tough luck on the art. I'm not saying some Protestant didn't help. They had soup kitchens and they sent maize from India, but essentially that was a famine brought about because they were no longer Christians and they were free traders. So that's why we have the sympathy. Now, sorry, the second part of your question then was...
Do you see Ireland? Do you see Ireland becoming one?
Well, look, we would say the plantations were an injustice, but they happened, and we can't, in a sense, hold the Protestants living there today and say, you got to go back to Scotland, and we're going to have a united Ireland based on a kind of an ethnic Irish group. The other part, there's a couple of other elements really. We got to recognise the historical reality. I guess there's a certain kind of natural justice to having it as one island. It seems kind of crazy that a small island is divided into two. But we believe in religious freedom. I could try to persuade you to become a Catholic, but I would never force you. It's an invitation always, and God does the conversion. But could we become one island with Catholics in the south and Protestants in the north? Yeah, I think we could. In fact, what I think's been very heartening, sadful at the same time, is a lot of Catholics are not practicing the faith. A lot of Catholics in the south of Ireland have essentially are thinking like Jews: gay marriage, abortion, trans. That whole, we might call it the rainbow agenda. Well, if you're a Catholic, you can't buy that. And the people holding the line better on the island are the Protestants.
Really?
Yes. So I think Catholics in the south, Catholics in the north, and the Protestants, we could have an alliance, and we could be one nation under one God. And again, leave aside our differences, but we could live in harmony, like I think we can do with Muslims.
Seeing as you're saying that Catholics originally was the line that got split, primarily by Henry VIII and the likes, and Martin Luther, you mentioned. If Catholicism is, quote unquote, according to you guys, the unadulterated line of Christianity,
yes,
then why is it? I don't understand why the Catholics are not holding firmer on their faith, knowing that they are occupied people. Like, for example, in Palestine, Palestinians are very fervently holding on to their faith, and they are defending their faith, they are practicing their faith. Why do you think the Irish Catholics aren't doing that? What's facilitating it, and where do you see it change?
Well, are you saying Irish Catholics specifically, or Catholics in the West? Sorry.
Irish Catholics.
Why are Irish Catholics not stronger in defending Palestine?
No, are not strongly defending. For example, you said it's got LGBT and all this sort of stuff.
Good question.
Why are they not staying firm to their faith?
That's a very good question. I suppose the first simple answer is baptism makes you a Christian, but God never takes away your free will. And every Catholic in Ireland could say, I'm for abortion and I'm for gay marriage, because God doesn't take away your free will. But that doesn't invalidate Catholicism. It invalidates their commitment to it. So in other words, why? Because they've lost their faith, and they're bad Catholics. And why did that happen? Sorry if I'm going on too much.
No, it's fine.
Well,
just to interject the point with regards to the Protestants, you said it seems like the Protestants in Ireland are practicing their faith and sticking by their faith more so than the Catholics. And I get, and this is the concept we have in Islam as well, that we have free will, and you've got the things that influence Muslims and this and that. But I'm just interested in this dichotomy between the Protestants and the Catholics, both living in somewhat the same land. But why is it that Protestants, who you wouldn't necessarily expect to hold on to their faith as much as, say, the Catholics,
I know,
who have been oppressed more so?
I think oppression is important. Essentially, Protestantism in England is over, I would say. I mean, the Church of England is there, but when you accept the rainbow, you're not Christian. Now, the Christians in Northern Ireland, because they're a minority in terms of the island, and they feel in a sense like an oppressed minority, that always tends to strengthen your faith. And because they feel like a minority there, you will tend to hold on more strongly to your identity. And Protestantism, I mean, the two main elements of their identity is Unionists, we're part of the United Kingdom and the Crown, and we're Protestant. And I think that has kind of forced them, because when you feel oppressed and you're under attack, you will go back to the strongest elements of your identity. And I would say that's the reason.
Because what's interesting is that Ireland has constantly been at odds with England for obvious reasons. However, when you see Ireland having to preserve their national identity, having to preserve their religion also, because here you can't have Catholic leaders, they have to be Protestant. I mean, Tony Blair was a prime example of somebody who was Protestant and then converted to Catholicism. So seeing that, I would have thought that the Catholics, it's interesting, I'm just fascinated by it. Where do you think this LGBT phenomena is coming from in Ireland?
Well, okay, and so if we take, in a sense, we can almost contrast that sort of siege mentality of the Northern Protestants and apply it to the South. I was born in '64. I grew up, the sexual revolution was in full swing. My faith, I would say, effectively, as a young guy, I lost the faith, because I heard Led Zeppelin and Thin Lizzy and Status Quo and, the rock and roll revolution, heavy drinking, and, the girls were in miniskirts and tight jeans, and I thought, wow, I have to be in this game. And I wasn't even a rebel. I love my parents. I knew when they said, stick with the moral order. Priest said it. I knew they were right, but temptation.
Yeah.
We're all fallen.
Yeah.
Now, that was part of it. Then we had what you call the Celtic Tiger. We had this massive debt-fueled boom, property boom. People were going in to borrow money to buy a house, and the bank manager said, I think you need a holiday in Spain and a new 4x4. I think we became materialistic. So we had, in a sense, the sexual revolution, mammon, the money. We got very materialistic. And then the third element, we're well educated, we're English speaking. Google, Facebook, you can, all the big global techie giants, run by Jews mainly, they came into Ireland, and but that whole hegemony, globalist hegemony, is not amenable to Catholic faith. Yeah. So the media and the big techs, basically they set about finishing the job, and I think they succeeded. But you'll never kill the faith. Just like, I'm just saying as an example, 99% of Muslims, I'm just saying as an example, 99% of Muslims in England could become materialistic, but a true Muslim is not going to be fooled. And that only invalidates them, not Islam, even though we have disagreements about how we've said that. So I hope that's helpful,
No. It was a very helpful conversation and very fascinating. And obviously we have a lot of love for the Irish people. That's why it's important to kind of understand. And even with the Christians, we're told
this is important.
Yeah, that the Christians are the closest to you. And even when it comes to the Christian faith, and certain figures that are respected in Christianity are also respected in Islam. For example, you probably heard last week when it came to the French Olympics opening ceremony, the Muslims were the first, one of the first that came up and were like, how comes you guys are taking this sort of stuff? And we were the first. I uploaded on my channel as well. It's somewhat, it's got a good following. So amongst the first to stand up and defend the honor
Absolutely.
of
And
Jesus,
that's
peace be upon him. Yeah.
That's why we can have an alliance. We can work together. Now, I think the Olympics. By the way, just before I mention the Olympics, because it's so important, it's such a marker of what's happening. You're saying the Irish don't lose faith in the English Christians or even good Americans. Christian Zionism is very deeply rooted, but again, it does not represent all Christians. There are plenty of good Christians in England who are completely horrified by the genocide and by, but Israeli soldiers sodomizing the prisoners, and then the Israeli public are saying, free our men. This is off the charts. If you ever want to say, where is Sodom and Gomorrah, it's been re-established in Israel.
Their own news handles, Times of Israel, you'll see, I can show you screenshots where they say Israel is the gayest, but Tel Aviv is the gayest city on earth.
Right. Now, which brings us to the Olympic opening ceremony. It's a parody of the Last Supper. I think there's another painting it was, but I get to the point. First of all, I thought it was a sporting competition. No. Who's the fastest? Who's the strongest? Who can swim the best?
Yes.
I think we know there's something else going on. It is cultural warfare.
Yes.
And it's basically saying, if you want to be an Olympian, forget about Jesus Christ and his sacrifice. His sacrifice for the sins of the world, as we see it. It's about the lesbians and the trannies and whatever, making a mockery of that. Now, here's an interesting fact. By the way, when I talk about the Jews, this is so important. It does not. It's a real category, but it does not include every Jew.
Yeah.
There's a difference in reality between the Jews as a political entity working a genocide in Gaza and working on the Olympic ceremony. Doesn't include all Jews. I'm sure there are a lot of traditional Jews
who are
horrified by both.
You mean Zionists? You mean Zionists and...
No, I mean the Jews when they work together as a political entity.
Right.
Biblically, the Jews killed Christ. Was it every Jew? No.
Right.
Which is why it's not ethnic. Our Lady, the Mother of God, the Mother of Jesus, didn't say crucify him. So it's nothing to do with DNA. But the Jews that called for crucifixion, that's the patrimony, the religious patrimony of the Jews who are, what are they doing? They're working against Christianity, specifically the Catholic Church, because we believe in the Eucharist. Now, here's an interesting thing. The director, did you see the fat lady in the middle?
Yeah.
She has come out and said, my name is Barbara Bush, probably not her real name. I'm a fat Jewish
queer lesbian.
That's a clue. The director, I think his name is Dominic Joly or Daniel Joly.
Yeah.
He's a Jewish homosexual. I think that's significant. And that's why I think we could... That's why I think you don't have to be a saint to recognize there's some serious moral subversion going on there. And thank you as Muslims for speaking out against it.
No, it's our pleasure.
I know the Pope came out yesterday. The church is a little weak, I'll be honest. So don't judge the church we're all sinners. And, we're all subject to the same cultural influences.
Yeah.
I don't think we're playing a strong game.
Yeah.
But that doesn't invalidate Catholicism any more than bad Muslims invalidate Islam. But I think we're together in this. And
hopefully we can stay together and keep the alliance going. Because there are obviously those that set to divide and sever that alliance.
Correct. And their worst nightmare is you and me talking.
Yeah.
And you and me and Muslims and Catholics and Christians finding common ground. So let's not let them divide us.
And let's end it there. A very poignant and key and vital point, my friend.
Thank
you. It was
you.
a pleasure.
I'm so honored. God bless you.
Pleasure is mine.
We can talk. We can have a dialogue. That's what
it's important. It's important.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. I'm going to take the mic. Yeah. Okay, enjoy the rest of your evening.
Can I just ask where, if you do post it, I'd love to see it in your other material.
Yeah, it's going to be on Smile to Jannah Extra.
Can I get a little picture of that or a card or something?
Yeah, you can take a picture.
I just want to make sure I find it,
Yeah.
And maybe we can have a picture together.
Of course. So this is the channel. You can just take a picture
YouTube,
of it.
right,
Yeah, just take a picture.
This is how everything is communicated these days. It's unbelievable. It's beautiful. Can I ask one of the young men to maybe take a picture? For
Yeah.
my, just,
Abdul Karim, can you take a picture?
would you mind? I'll be fight my brother.
And then
Oh,
take
sorry. Thanks again. What's your name?
Zishan.
Zishan. Oh, Sean and Zishan.
Sean and
I
Zishan.
love it. Whoa.
Yeah. And then one on
Sorry, yeah.
on mine, yeah.
Sean
Do a
and
portrait.
Zishan.
Do a portrait, yeah. Whatever looks good.
Sean and Zishan. I love it.
Yeah?
Can I get a picture with you? Can I get a picture? I'd love to get a picture of the three of us.
Yeah, yeah.
Last one, I'll leave you to it then. Are you good at selfies? Have a go. What's your name, my friend? Abdul, Zishan and Sean. We love God and we want to do His work and we can be united in that. Thank you, Lord. Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right, fellas.
Take care, Sean.
Zishan. I hope to see you again maybe in a couple of weeks' time if you've